Hi everyone, I'm Sunny and I will start with my series already for Neptune. So I hope you guys have been enjoying the last few planets I've been doing. I've been taking my time because I enjoy doing these kind of slow. So I will start with you guys who have Neptune in the first or Neptune in Aries. I was going to say Neptune in Mars. So if you guys have Neptune in the first house, you guys would notice that your identity may take so many forms, I'm sorry, because of your immutable sign, your immutable sign in a cardinal sign. So you will notice that you will like to treat your face as a canvas, for example, so where you would like to express yourself through, like, I guess the best way to say it is that people will notice how you like to be creative and self-expressive when it comes to your face, your facial features. Maybe you might notice, this isn't to be like mean or anything, but you might notice that your eyes are a little bit more wider apart. They could be big, they could be small, but I do think overall there's, even though this is a house that's going to be fierce, there's a softness to your facial expressions where it's maybe you're a little bit more plump in your face, where you could be a little bit more cheeky. You could possibly retain a little bit more of that fatness. Like if I had to say a specific chubbiness, I think we all have chubbiness in like our body, but it's in different areas for some people more than others. Like it's more noticeable, and I mean I can testify. I think I have I think I've always had chubby cheeks, but to each their own, right? Like they might notice that. Some people might notice that more than others, some might not, but again, it would possibly look very cute on you. You have a cutesy, innocent, there you go. There's an innocence to your facial expressions, or even just your gestures, your eye movement, your smiles. I know Mars is still kind of a house, the planet in here, where it's fierce and direct, and it could be possibly sometimes intimidating to people, but it's very forthcoming, it's very confrontational. So even that is very much softened by this Neptune outer planet. So even here, I think that you would have a softness to you. You could also possibly be very much into makeup, and not just like the type of aesthetic is ethereal. So I would assume that you would either keep these two looks typically to where it's minimal, natural, quote unquote, not natural, but I guess the best way of saying it is that you might, for those that do wear makeup, you might gravitate more towards colors that suit your skin tone, in the sense where it's like people can't notice if you're wearing like a little bit of chapstick, a little bit of lip color, lipstick, lip liner, or even just doing your eyebrows. It could be minimal because you could be your, how can I say, your day-to-day life or your routines might be a little more active, so you don't want to be looking sweaty and stuff. I think you might like the more natural kind of look sometimes, and then when you're feeling a little more creative, a little bit more flamboyant, you might enjoy wearing more colors in your face, where you might be more experimental and looking more like a mermaid, like a siren, out of this world creature. I do think that it's not that you don't like looking cutesy or edgy or anything, like it's just that whatever, I think you gravitate to many different looks in terms of like your makeup, for example. But when I say this, I guess the best way of saying it is that you might tend to gravitate towards looking like you're creating interesting, beautiful creatures. when I think of this, it's like, think of all the like example, I think of like example Hellboy, where everyone looks very cool and creative in terms of their costume makeup and stuff. So it could be like that with you. You're like, I like to look cute, or I like to look cool, unique, but in this out of this world kind of format. You could even like, I also think of Grimes on one of those recent videos that she's done, where she has very cartoonish anime type of style. In the Shinigami Eyes video, she really gravitated to a lot of these looks, with the contacts, with the makeup, the hair, and everything else. She really accessorize the head, sorry, towards a very not 3D, 2D character brought into 3D life. So it could be like that with you too, where you might like enjoying to play roles in your face, maybe specifically that, maybe to the body too, but you might really like to play into that cosplay, to the cartoon, um, to the cartoon theme, into the alien theme, but it's still very cute, and even like underwater mermaids and sea creatures and stuff like that. I just feel that it's very beautiful, bold, big eyes, lashes, very likely that you might like when you do enjoy to particularly look these looks that are more well put together and creative, you might enjoy going all out. It's like you either go big or home, right? So I do see you guys typically enjoying the lash, the cool multicolored dimensional eyeliner, those duochrome colors that look one color and then turn a different color depending on where the light hits. It could be like that, or you could very much be into adding prosthetics to your face too, where you're like, well, I'm gonna add a little bit of whiskers because it looks cool and I'm feeling myself, or I'm gonna add a little bit of extra accessories on my eyes because I think it looks cool and unique. Like, it's just, you're trying to look different and unique, but it's very eye-catching to people. And even when you're not going all out with these things and you're being minimal, your eyes are very how could I say, alluring to some, like, there's just an innocence to how you bring people about with your visuals and your eyes, and you invite people in to approach you. I think you make a soft energy into the first house, and people might feel more comfortable approaching you and talking to you and like speaking to you and like complimenting you. Sometimes people, I can say that when I've had these transits, people will come up to me and be more nicer, like approachable, where like they want to compliment me on how I've accessorized myself, like with earrings or glasses or like headbands and makeup and stuff like that. So it could be like that. So that's one way to look at that when it comes to this placement. When it comes to that physical appearance, remember I'm focusing a little bit more on this physical aspect because it is the first house. It's Mars. It's what people see. It's your appearance, your physical appearance, not necessarily how others. I think I'm not trying to gravitate so much to the 10th house, where how others see you, but more or less how you present yourself, to the ego, right? So yeah, you are a very good canvas. Your face, your head, your physique is a canvas to you, and you might also gravitate to just being into the loungewear too, where it's like, I like to mix and match. I just like to be comfortable, softer. Like, you could also just, not saying that you'll let go of your hair, but you might just kind of allow your hair to do its thing and just roll with the punches of every day, how your hair wants to act that day. Because everybody has good hair days, everybody has bad hair days, but you might just kind of go with it. People might just assume that you have good hair routines sometimes, and maybe those for people who have Leo placements too, might feel that with Neptune. Your hair might be just really nice. It's really, really beachy. It's very much I think of Grace and Frankie. I just think that like the vibe. I think I'm gonna say it's Frankie. Yeah, Frankie is the hippie. So it could be like that, where you're like, yeah, like very with the flow, and just you could possibly just enjoy being at the beach all the time. But going back to more things, because I think I got stuck too much in the appearance part. I do think you might have trouble receiving yourself with how you see yourself, and not knowing who you really are. Sometimes, like at first, like, you might consider this fun, trying to wear many masks and stuff, and to get to know who you are through these experiences and how you see people treating you. But it might take you a long time. It is a slow-moving planet on a fast-paced house, so you might see people interact with you one way, but it doesn't click. It doesn't click right away, so you might have trouble kind of feeling yourself out, who you really are at the core, for quite some time. So I think even into maturity, I think you might feel more yourself in that sense, where you know who you are. Like that sense of self might come in later on, and you might have more fun with it in the beginning years, but then you might kind of feel lost. There's this feeling of vagueness, confusion with Neptune in here, so you might feel that very intensely. You can also feel that, I forgot to mention this, I'm trying not to go so much into how could I say to the aspect of the eyes and stuff, but you could notice when people say watery Neptune eyes, I want to clarify something that I noticed, because I just noticed that on people, but your watery eyes typically stem, like if they're not like really like soft, light colored eyes, even with your natural brown hues too, and black. I don't think I've ever met somebody with super black eyes, but they're usually dark brown. They're usually lighter brown colors. I do think that you will notice that there's this, there's a film of wateriness, and like they're on the verge of crying. And sometimes it's not so much that they have the sad face or that they want to cry and they're emotional. Sometimes it can be, but it's just sometimes that those moments that you see them, your sparkly, watery eyes can sometimes be because of your allergies, right? So people never point that out, where it's like because of your environment. Sometimes you can notice that you might be a little bit more I forgot, like more susceptible. There you go. You could be more susceptible to having allergies, and that might flare up your watering eyes, right? Your sinuses and stuff like that. Your ears, and mouth, and you could have more sensitivities to like things in your environment, like, oh, you're allergic to pollen, or you have sensitivities to trees, to the grass, to dust, to pet hair, dander, what was I gonna say? The bed stuff, bed bugs, for example. And there's so many things that you could be easily triggered to, and that's why maybe your allergies might flare up for yourself. You might notice that, and this isn't medical advice, but more so there's some connections to that, where you might notice that, where I notice that sometimes, like, if you feel that you catch yourself, it's like, oh, something's probably in the air that's triggering you. So you could possibly even spark up your eyes, or even just like example, if you're wearing lashes, you could be sensitive to some of those ingredients. I don't want to say chemicals, but ingredients, because they're not always bad. Sometimes it's just the amount. Some people are more sensitive to certain things. There's nothing wrong with being sensitive or insensitive to things, but notice that you could be like, well, this eyelash glue had formaldehyde, or you're like, I didn't know I was sensitive to that, but that could be a trigger as to why your eyes are like super watery. So there's so many things, and not just that, maybe lack of sleep too, or excessive sleep, and just there's so many things that could trigger those watery eyes. It's not always like, oh, it's so cute, it's beautiful because everybody, no, like, let's face it, Neptune does trigger allergies, very much so. So I like to point that out when it comes to your beautiful watery eyes. And yeah, sure, it looks good, but sometimes it can be annoying, because sometimes you can be like excessively crying. Like you could be even sensitive to the amount of sunlight you're receiving, because typically that can happen to some people, especially with lighter colored eyes like blue eyes or green eyes. But I think it's mostly because of the lack of pigment. So that could be one scenario. So I just wanted to kind of point that out, because I don't think many people kind of point that out necessarily. So moving on. Moving on to the next point. By the way, like, you could have, well, like, I can say that in a different video, but yeah, basically you could be sensitive to like histamine stuff, or many things that even in your food, but I think mostly it could be in your environment, something physical that you could possibly touch, because it's like the first house, it's something tangible. So that could be it. So your appearance, once I start getting excited about it, when I start getting comfortable and excited about talking about a video, I start going too fast, and I am trying to pace myself. So excuse me if I sound too fast sometimes, and then slow. Sorry, I needed to burp. So I'm trying to moderate my speech. Sometimes I can't. I need to work on that still. So your appearance can be constantly changing in a colorful way, like I said, first way was your physical appearance in your face, but then another way, which is also the physical body, is that you could be very expressive when it comes to your clothing. There's other houses that entail this too, but when it comes to visuals in this house, you could also like to be wearing sporty clothes, workout clothes, but typically when you see them sometimes, and I know like you've probably seen them on Instagram and stuff, that they can be usually like the safe colors, which are like black, gray, blue, and stuff like that. So when you decide to wear them, you might opt for like the really colorful neon colors, the colorful, just mismatching could be also a thing. What are they called? The tie-dye, there you go, tie-dye style type of clothing, that's fit and comfortable. It could be like that, or you can just, if you're not actually working out and stuff like that, you can just naturally gravitate towards more colorful like type of clothing that's printed, that's unique, very expressive, that it's kind of hard to miss in a sea of like, you know, muted colors, right? So you would stand out like a sore thumb, like a sore thumb, but in a good way, typically. Again, you know, you receive that as you will, but Neptune can be like that, where you're receptive to this energy, but people pick that up on you, so they can see that you're someone that's very creative, you're someone that is open to energies too. So that can be it could be a mood description of how you feel when you're describing yourself in that creative way of how you express yourself physically, with the way you dress, with the way you put on accessories, with how you decorate your face. It feels very much, even body paint or like rings, like, but that's other houses too. So your appearance does matter to some extent, but you could be very aware of how you create feelings in others and how you tend to like portray things, and people pick that up. So I think you can be a little bit sensitive. Sensitive is not bad. Sensitive just means that you might notice these things more, and that makes you very aware of how people see you. So you're like, should I minimize this or should I just be myself? So you might have this tug of war where you're like, I just, not that you want to blend, but I don't want to stir the pot. You want to be a softer energy, but then you might have more direct transits with this placement where you're like, I want to be bold. Bold is the key. Bold is to stand out. You don't mind having that special celebrity taste, in that sense of like, I'm gonna stand out. I'm gonna stand out from the crowd because this is what I'm good at, and it comes natural to me. I'm not gonna feel bad about it. I'm just not gonna care about what people think anymore. So there could be those moments in time where you might be more comfortable in your skin and then very uncomfortable. So you're gonna learn a lot through these different aspects of you, to deal with your Neptune energy. And you could also like to work in like yoga or ballet, martial arts, a disciplined art, but that's freeing of the body, that allows you to experience like a discipline, like it's you enjoy really having that Mars energy in a creative field where it gives you direction, it gives you willpower to continue to do something that makes you feel alive and happy, and you get to experience and many things, like even for example when you do physical type of arts, like I said, like body stretching, body yoga, it's all that stuff, Pilates, you learn to stretch the body, and you know, you work on your feet too, because that's important with this, but you learn how to stand your ground, you learn how to feel more open with the body, not so restricted. Like Mars isn't so much restrictive, but it's just that you learn how to maneuver yourself to where you feel like you just come alive, you just look like you are good in the motion of doing these arts, and it's very fulfilling to you. So it's not always something that you're going to be passive, like it's not always like, I'm gonna draw, I'm gonna write, I'm gonna paint, I'm gonna like take photography. Like these can be things, like you can be good at taking pictures and receiving, like being the photographer and being the I don't think it's photography, but being the muse, right? But you can be good at these things with time. But I feel that you might gravitate more towards things that make you get active, because you need to burn up that Martian energy. So you can be excited about these things. And overall, an outer generational planet versus your ego can be important, and how others perceive you kind of matters to you, even though those that might see you might be invisible to you. But you intuitively know when people kind of observe you and know of you through social media, or like if they're observing you from a far away distance, you kind of just know when people just look at you and they just want to look at you, they can't help but stare. So whether it's for good or bad, you might notice that more often. But it's important to know that there's boundaries to be placed. Sometimes when it comes to this Neptune in the first, people might think that you could be taken advantage of more easily. And I might write this down more, because I have more notes, but I think I made the video too long. But I might add more notes to explain further. But I do think that you need to basically affirm yourself, be affirmative about what boundaries are okay with you and what boundaries are not okay with you, because this is one of those tricky placements where people might think like you're an easy target, maybe because you look innocent or naive, but you might not be. You might be kind of what's it called, a sheep, no, sheep's clothing was, I can't think of the saying. I know the saying, okay, if I just kind of calm my thoughts, I can possibly think of you're a wolf in sheep's clothing. You could be like that, but people might not know that. People might not know you have cutthroat tendencies, because you have such a soft innocence. The aura you give off could be softer. There could be an innocence, naivete to how you appear, but that's not how you really are. So it's a fine line to walk, but I will add more to that in my notes. But I do think that more or less you might feel a little bit lighter with this energy. I think you might be very comfortable with how open and how large that scale of that scale of expression can be made through the first house, which is unique, because you basically play Barbie with yourself, because you get to be like, well, I want to dress like this way, and then I want to dress like that the other day. I always feel different, so you're gonna go with the moods. Whatever you feel is how you're going to allow yourself to express yourself, whether it's dark, whether it's light, whether it's pink, whether it's green, whether it's serious, whether you're just kind of like, well, I want to dress up like, what is it called, those academia vibes. So you could be very eclectic when it comes to your self-expression. So I hope you guys enjoyed that. I will write more in my notes. I hope you enjoyed that, and stick around and see the other videos for the Neptune series. And thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you soon. So bye everybody.